Hello everybody and welcome to Amphlett Reviews, back with another Japanese deep dive into some more Norifumi Suzuki's kind of exploitation series of films he did back in the mid-70s, I believe by Toei as well, produced and put together, distributed by them. And after doing the School of the Holy Beast, which I found quite enjoyable, it's not a perfect film. I think it's a little bit too hyped up for its own good. It has a bigger reputation, what the film actually is, but an enjoyable film nonetheless. I thought this would be the crowning jewel in his library, being I've heard so many good things in terms of Sex and Fury, released in 1973, the same year as Lady Snowblood, which is apparent to me is getting a bit of a blueprint on this director's work, which is a little bit troubling if I see more of his films down the line and I see the same type of story over and over. Time will tell. The storyline for Sex and Fury basically follows our main character, which is a female yakuza, someone who's got some really cool tattoos, who's someone who is super confident, very good looking, very attractive woman, who's a professional pickpocketer who did that during her youth, and she's also a trained yakuza samurai. She knows how to use weapons, she knows how to take care of herself, and she's oozing with confidence and has a good friendship groups around her, has a lot of ties with various fractions within different parts of Japan, and essentially her background and story is not too similar from the recent Ballerina, which is funny. That very old, tiresome chestnut of a revenge storyline where she's a little girl, she sees her father being killed in front of her, who is a detective, and basically the person responsible is the person with the deer tattoo. And she spends the past 20 plus years trying to find who this person was, because she has no records or recollection apart from just that tattoo. And she goes in a bit of a war path to try and find it. While she's doing that, she's a professional gambler. She's a pickpocketer, she's also Yakuza, and she definitely is very capable and very confident with herself in terms of taking out great numbers. A lead happens during the portion of the film where a character gets died from cheating in basically a gambling game, and she leads into going to a location, and she goes up against essentially these three titans of wealth and power and royalty in terms of construction, prostitution, various things. There's a big political shift happening. She comes across an assassin who multiple times in the film tries to take out this guy and fails every time, and somehow manages to get away despite how many people on these locations, these secure buildings and police and trains, and it's just really baffling to me. But she comes across the path of this person who's a wanted fugitive, and basically is a former employee of one of the three titans and wants to take him out. This leads also to her find out that one of those characters is one of the people responsible for her father's death, and more reveals come about it as they go along. And from this point of these three Pacific Titans, one's based from the UK coming into Japan, which is a really cool aspect. I like the the Japanese and British connections. We don't see much of that. We see more of that within Hong Kong, and that leads into another character that comes into the play, which is a bit of an adversary to our main protagonist character. We've also explore more of the political side. We explore more of those characters. There's a lot of scenes of them as well, surprisingly, just as much as our main character is. And I would say it's a very much a incoherent, very disjointed revenge storyline. It's not really much of an exploitation film. It's not much of a pink film. It does have a lot of excessive nudity in it. It has more of rape scenes in it, and it has a lot of artistic pornography imagery, which is just, it's just there for the sake of being there. A lot of it is. It's just a lot, taking up a lot of time. There's a lot of nudity for the sake of nudity, and the story aspect to it, which, I'm not expecting Shakespeare. I'm not expecting an Oscar-winning film here. I just want something a bit interesting, something to channel all that stuff in. Hanzo the Razor knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to do a cool, slick a Shaft 70s exploitation, actually have a pretty good story and pretty good characters while doing the more sleazier stuff in between, which is funny and makes it charming. This is just boring. I felt for the runtime of the film I was quite disappointed, if I'm being absolutely honest. Sex and Fury has a much bigger reputation than it actually deserves to be. It has the most infamous and famous scene of the film, which is basically her coming out of the bath naked and taking on loads of guys completely butt-ass naked, and basically blood spraying all over her, and her with a samurai sword basically taking out guys one by one. Really cool scene, really cool starting point in the film, which never really gets anything above that point. Every other scene after it is just very tamed. It's very dull. Don't get me wrong, the film itself, in terms of an artistic point, is really well made. It's a really well shot film. It has some great locations. I really like some of the the choices are made in the film. However, it's just not interesting. It's just not an engaging kind of focused revenge storyline. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Lady Blood Snow 2, where in that film also had some similar issues where we kind of already had her revenge storyline within the first film, and she's just kind of a passenger within a political kind of shift, and she just happens to be involved. And that's exactly what this film feels like. It feels like we get to know this character a little bit, and then it's splinters between these Titan characters, these bad guys, another female character which comes into play in the film. The actress's name is Christina Longberg, which is known for doing Thriller, which is a Vinegar Syndrome release that got released not too long ago, which is a very famous kind of B-movie, which I've heard very mixed opinions of in terms of its kind of taste. Whether it's enjoyable or not, I don't know. But it's really strange, this film, because basically they bring this actress in, and it's interesting looking into the history of it. Basically said, do you want to do some Japanese films? He said yes. He did 2 films for Japan, and this film and another one, which is like a journey film, which comes to Japan and basically gets held captive, raped for most of the film, and then falls in love with her captor. Really fucked up, really strange. And this film, again, she comes in, she's, obviously a very beautiful woman, but she's just, exploited and raped in the film, and she's just have explicit kind of sex scenes. And it's a really strange time in terms of, the more I think about these kind of things, in terms of the mid-70s, having these really kind of odd 70s pink films, and just, how these films were kind of put together, and they were just accepted. Obviously it's very consensual in terms of the imagery that's kind of put into place, but it's just most of her career, looking on IMDb, is just all this material. Unfortunately, the film has more focus on simulated rape sequences more than an actual exploitation, more of a wackier film. In this film, there's such a divide between her character and just kind of, again, using her for these simulated kind of sex scenes, and then you got the main character, which is just talking and doing some various stuff. There's not much actual kind of action in the film, or much kind of fighting. There is a little bit towards more the second act going into the third act of the film, but by that point my investment level, my engagement level is completely dropped down. And again, I'm not expecting anything Oscar based here, but I just felt the whole execution, I thought the whole delivery of the film was really poor. Not much to explore or root for or kind of get kind of satisfaction of. Even the whole revenge aspect of the film, which happens during the mid portion, I think is kind of dull again. And I really hope there's more good films for his filmography. I know there's quite a few that are definitely on the recommended list. I felt The School of the Holy Beast was a much better film compared to this one, which is a bit of a shame ultimately. So what are your thoughts and opinions on Sex and Fury? Please comment down below. What are your thoughts on the sequel? Is it worth checking out? Is it better than this film? In fact, it's done by a different director. Let us know your thoughts and opinions. Please comment down below. So in the meantime, guys, Amphlett Reviews, signing out.